Welcome back, trainers. Welcome to another video, a Master League video of Ho-Oh here with Solar Beam, our tried and true Pokemon in the Master League. We always love showcasing Ho-Oh in our shorts, and this is the first time we're going to be showcasing it in the long-form content of our GBL battles. I believe this season, at least this rotation, it's been a fun pick to use now that the meta has shifted. Rhyperior being the forefront of as the most available Pokemon that you can use with its resources without having to spend money in the game. Now, with Rhyperior being in the forefront, there's been a lot of counters against Rhyperior. We got Bulu, we got Primarina, we got Kyogre, and a few other picks, even Xerneas as well too. And with all those in common, if you play it out right, Solar Beam Ho-Oh really works well. We paired it up with Quick Attack Zacian. We used to have Snarl, but we'll talk about why we switched to Quick Attack. And our good tried and true as well, Zygarde, our perfect Zygarde in the back. In this showcase of our video, we usually go with safe swap Zacian, because if there's a hard counter lead, Zacian can do some pretty interesting plays, which we'll showcase right about now. But without a doubt, we have 17 battles to showcase, 2 of them in the lead. They're going to be very fun to use and show. We have Avalugg here, Hisui Avalugg, which is probably the first one we've seen in this rotation. Now, we survive a rock slide here. We let it go. The question is, do our opponents actually shield the Solar Beam? They survive any move, but they let go Solar Beam, which is very, very great in our situation. And mind you, with our battles this go-arounds, we're going to have a visual glitch, something that's been happening in the last update or two in the Master League. You'll see a lot of Pokemon mirror matching the Fire Incinerate fast move or whatever fast move your Pokemon has currently in the battle. But yeah, jumping into the battle here, we have Zygarde against Ho-Oh. We swapped into our Zygarde here because it is a very good matchup against Ho-Oh. Now, with the team comps we've been seeing lately in the matchup, we've been seeing a lot of fairies and water types in the back, so we have to kind of strategically play Zygarde in a good situation. And I kind of been learning that just safe swapping Zygarde is not the best situation, because if we have a hard counter lead, they typically have some sort of hard counter switch, which is a fairy for the most part, Xerneas or Togekiss. So we've been switching into Zacian. Now, just as this battle is playing out, we had Snarl in the very beginning, but going back to what we've been saying, how we've been analyzing the meta, Snarl hasn't been really the best fast move Pokemon, or the fast move like to use in the Master League right now, because we also have Yveltal as the top meta pick as well, and we need sometimes the fast move pressure and the damage, the chip damage. So Quick Attack has been a lot more convenient, and also for catching moves has been really, really great. As you can see, we won that match. Jumping into this battle here, we have Shadow Rhyperior. They allow us to get to their Solar Beam first. Do they respect it? No, they do not. They come in with Waterfall Prima. As I said, we switch into our Zacian. We gotta, preserve health on Zacian, so we're gonna shield, and we're gonna build up some energy. We don't want to debuff ourselves just yet, because it's kind of an odd situation for our Zygarde against the Prima, because we don't really have the fast move pressure that we would like to take and to give to the Primarina. So we throw the Wild Charge. They end up shielding, which we just end up switching into our Ho-Oh. We're going to shield this because we got to respect the Hydro Cannon, the new legacy move on Prima. That's why it's been also a very popular pick in the Master League now, as another easy, viable Pokemon to use. We had a little bit of a glitch in our matchup. We can say maybe it was a frame drop. We were wanting to go for the Sacred, but they caught the Solar Beam onto the Zacian. So in this situation, we wanted to catch the move, and we ended up catching perfectly well. And we're able to farm this down and get to an EQ against the Primarina and actually win this match. So long and behold, we actually beaten the double fairies in the back. We can survive any move from Prima, but they don't get to another move, and it's a GG's from our opponent. Jumping into the next max here, we have Tapu Bulu switching to a Rhyperior. Now, this is one of our friends that usually watches us in our streams, so he knows about Solar Beam. So we actually changed up a little bit, and we went for the bait. They end up shielded, and we switch into our Zygarde. Now, Zygarde into Rhyperior. This is also a very good matchup. Comes to find out, depending on how the debuffs happen in early on in the matchup, Rhyperior could actually flip the match, but if they don't get it after the first or second debuff, we can actually flip that match. Because the time switch is off a little bit, misaligns, they're able to switch back into their Tapu Bulu. I was wanting to switch, but the timer wasn't up necessarily, so I did a risky play and shielded this because I did not want to lose all that energy that we actually built up. We can take a move or two from Tapu Bulu. Keep in mind that they're going to switch into their Pokemon right after this here because the timer is up, which they did. We ended up throwing the Solar Beam to get the clear knockout, and they actually shielded again. So they want to make sure that the Rhyperior is going to knock out this Ho-Oh, get out of the way. So we had that residual energy from Zygarde, and we go for the EQ. This is going to knock out the Rhyperior easily, and then we're going to switch into our Zacian to get energy lead. We just got to watch for the catch. As long as they don't catch, we can win this match. With the quick attack, Zacian and the Play Rough, it does almost enough damage to knock it out in full. In this case, it's just barely, and we're just going to Wild Charge here. We do survive the move, just barely as well too. And we, yeah, pretty much going to win this match. A very, very close matchup. We're going to switch out here and just do the Dragon Tail damage, and we win that match. GG's to our friend, Smurfy! So going into our next match, we have another Tapu Bulu lead. This is, again, a clear matchup, a winning matchup for us. Typically, they have a Palkia and a Rhyperior. So as long as we manage to win the switch or get shields down where the Palkia is very low, we can come into our Ho-Oh and actually build up to the beam. So if there's another potential hard counter Pokemon in the back, we have the Solar Beam ready to go and to knock out whatever it is in the back. Typically, again, it's a Rhyperior, it's a Prima, or it could be a Kyogre. So we just try to play it out to the best of our ability. In this case here, we got shields down. We're able to get to the Wild Charge. This is going to almost knock out the Palkia, just barely, and it does with the quick attack damage. Again, quick attack has been our saving grace. The switch between like almost winning and almost losing our matchups. So just keep in mind, quick attack Zacian's looking very good. And again, we have an Incinerate lead. We come into our Ho-Oh, they come into the Rhyperior. They don't get to the Rock Wrecker, and we're able to knock it out, and we can farm down and win. But they top left. GG's to our opponent going into the next matchup. Kyogre lead. Not the good lead. We're going to go into our Zacian. What we're going to do here in this situation, we typically like to build up, wait for them to throw. We shield because they either will stay in and commit more damage, or they're going to switch out to another Pokemon, in which in this case is their own Zacian. Now that we have all this energy lead, this is going to put a lot of pressure into their Pokemon. In this case, again, their Zacian. Like I mentioned in the last battle, if we can get shields down or win alignment, we can have our Kyogre lined up with our Zygarde, or we can just let this go, farm down with Ho-Oh, and bait out the Kyogre beam, and then see what their last Pokemon is going to be. In most cases, look, say they just switched in, it's going to give us a beautiful opportunity to farm to knock out this Kyogre. No problem. See you later, whale. And then they come in with a Xerneas, which we can survive a Moonblast really easily. We get to the Sacred, and we can knock out this Xerneas. And look at that. Uh-oh is sweeping Kyogre double fairy lineups very, very easily. They top left. GG's to our opponent. Ready on to the next battle. We have a Dialga in the lead. Now, typically, they sometimes have a fairy in the back or a water type. So we just got to watch for the catch. You don't want to have that residual energy be wasted onto a Pokemon that they're going to catch in the back. So I wait a turn here for a second just in case they don't switch, and I throw the Sacred. They're going to most likely shield, but they don't, surprisingly enough, because they have a Palkia. An Incinerate, quote-unquote, Palkia. I love the glitch. It's so funny seeing every Pokemon have an Incinerate fast move. But we get the shield back because they don't know we have Solar Beam. And then here they are switching into their own Ho-Oh. So with our energy lead, we're able to go Wild Charge after Wild Charge. Very surprised that they did not throw. So are they going to shield here? They do not. And again, very surprised that they didn't. They actually have an Aqua Tail as well, too. And again, even in more shock that they're just letting these Wild Charges going through. They had somewhat of an opportunity to win this, but not anymore. We come in with our Zygarde. We can take any move, but we're going to just shield just because this game is just really over at this point. And they top left. Good game to our opponents. Moving on to the next match. We got Ho-Oh into Tapu Bulu. Again, everyone's trying to counter these Rhyperiors, but we're trying to stay ahead of the game, ahead of the curve, as you may say. They come in with Zacian. Once again, same situation. We're going to go with the play rough to see if they're going to either let it go. Sometimes they do, which in this case they did. Or they'll put up the fight. Either go with the 1 or 2 shields, but they let it go. Which I don't think. I think at least getting a shield down would be better in this situation for our opponent. But hey, we're able to chip this. Any more damage that we can do is just going to make the end game a lot easier for Zygarde. They don't really have like a hard counter in the back. Like once in a blue moon, they might have a Prima Charm. But, you know, having a Bulu in the lead, they're usually going to have a Waterfall one in the back. In this case, what we typically like to do is throw the Solar Beam, because if they shield, great. We have a 2-to-1 shield situation with Zygarde against Rhyperior, which in most cases we just kind of either chip through Crunch or we just build up to the EQ and throw it. This is going to force them their last shields, or they call it, whatever they're going to do. In this case, they shield and they switch into Bulu. And this is really just game over at this point. You know, we survive this, I believe. And then we can come into our Ho-Oh and we can farm this down. We survive this as well. We don't have any issues whatsoever. We're just going to save the shields against the Rhyperior. In this case, there's just no point of goofing off calling moves. So we're just going to shields. And plus, we're debuffed. So we're just going to go to the Solar Beam. And we just get to beam another Rhyperior. And we get a GG and move on to the next match. Like I said, what I've been figuring out with this team, if Zacian is just putting in a lot of work. Quick Attack has just been a beautiful addition to the way that we play out the matches. And if we can get shields down, even if we have like a bad lead, Ho-Oh can flip and change things mid-close. And it's just a beautiful way of just playing this team. So we come in with Yveltal here. Some trainers have been playing this slightly differently, which has been very interesting. Sometimes they build up to almost 100 and then they throw almost back to back. Sometimes they just throw right to the Sacred so they don't get debuffed. In this case, you know, their trainer just threw the fast move and then they switch into their Rhyperior. Just because they're up or they're down a shield, we're up the shield. We're going to switch into our Zygarde and we're just going to take this. We kind of want the alignment a little bit. We're going to go for the EQ. They do let it go because we've been debuffed twice. They actually survived that, crazy enough. We do survive this breaking swipe, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, and then I switch, anticipating their swap as well to the snipe. So we want to save that Crunch for a potential debuff in the back, if anything. And they have a Necrozma. Now, this is kind of tricky because I don't really want to debuff myself, but I don't really have much of a choice because they know they don't want us. We don't want to debuff ourselves, so we're going to Wild Charge first. Build up energy to see if they're actually going to throw. And we're going to see if we can try to CMP here. And we actually do. We do lose CMP, which is beautiful. So we double up on our shields. And we're going to throw the Wild Charge once again. Remember, we have a Crunch on our Zygarde. They're going to think we're going to switch to try to catch the move. But we don't. So we get to the actual Wild Charge, having a little bit of residual energy. And then we just have the Crunch and then we throw it. And this is going to knock out the Necrozma. Good game, trainer. Moving on to the next battle, we have a Zacian lead. Now, this is not this is like an okay lead. I don't really do anything too crazy as far as trying to make catches and whatnot. If I do, it might be on the Zacian once again, because there might be a little bit of play with our Ho-Oh in the back, which in this case we do, because they didn't throw the move. So I want to save and preserve health on our Ho-Oh. Again, like Ho-Oh health and energy is just so good in the back, in in the switch and the close. So anything to preserve that is great. We bait out a Lando, which is not bad whatsoever. I was anticipating a shielding here, but I don't. I let it go. I figure getting energy on our Ho-Oh, or even just taking the damage onto Zygarde, which is why I did this actually, because I didn't want to anticipate shielding, calling baits, all that stuff with Ho-Oh against the Lando. So in this case here, they don't know we have the Brave Bird. We're just going to throw the Sacred. Are they going to call it? They do shield, which is beautiful. So this is almost looking like a closing matchup for Zygarde. I think I shield. No. Okay, I don't. I come in with the Zygarde. I think I just end up shielding. I remember. We lose this match, I believe. What I had to do is actually call one of the Aquatails, which in that case, I think they were kind of short of a a spatial Ren. So in this case, the Play Rough was one of those things where, again, maybe I could have shielded the Play Rough here, actually. If I shielded the Play Rough, might have been really, really close because they actually had the spatial here and we lose. We're shields down. If we ended up calling the Aquatail, we probably had a shot throwing EQ and winning that match. Pretty close, but that's what happens. A little bit of a weird game, but it is what it is. In this situation, this new match, they had a premium in the lead and they switch into their Palkia. Once again, we come in with our Zacian. Now, I've been thinking about this a couple times. We can come in our Zygarde instead of our Zacian because they might have another fairy type in the back, which in this case would be the Prima, which would be kind of a hard matchup for our Zygarde. So, food for thought if anyone actually uses this team. But in this case, we're again trying to flip switch. In this case, they actually go down shields. So, good idea for good old Ho-Oh to farm if we really wanted to. We did not get to the CMP here. They actually baited, which is beautiful. We get the farm down. We get to see what they're going to bring in. There's the Prima. They have a Kyogre in the back. And because, again, we have an energy lead and because Surf got a nerf, we're able to outpace and get to the Solar Beam, knock out the Kyogre, and we just shield here and we get to Solar Beam the Prima as well, too. Double beam in one match. You love to see it. Love to see it. These toxic teams, I swear. The Primas, the Kyogre, the ABA Furies, the ABA Waters. It's just too much. Just too much to handle. Here we go. And coming into this match, we got a Shadow Rhyperior. Now, I was being a little sassy. I'm like, you know what? Most Shadows, or even most Rhyperiors, they've been going for the Breaking Swipe bait. Most don't even go for the Rock Record. I'm like, all right, I'm just going to give it a call. I called it twice. Really, it's the first time because they didn't even build up to the Rock Wrecker on the second one. Being double debuff, I just felt like they're not going to shield. If we shielded, they'll most likely match our shields. And we, having that mind game situation is just really great to have. Because we were ahead on energy, we're able to get a shield, knock out a Pokemon, come in with our Zacian, and just, have a very dominating matchup. So now that we have Quick Attack on our Zacian, this really helps out the Yveltal matchups because I was realizing that Snarl Zacian against Yveltal, with Snarl, Yveltal can actually win in the 1s and the 2s once it lands in Oblivion Wings. So I wanted to switch again. That was another reason why I switched to Quick Attack Zacian, because now it has play with the Wild Charge being able to almost knock out the Yveltal with the fast move pressure. In this case, we were able to knock out the Yveltal. We get to the Quick Attack, and I think our opponent pretty much top left at this point or closed the app. They just didn't want to handle, I guess, the gameplay, which in this case, they had an opportunity. If they catch the Wild Charge, I think they were able to get to an Aquatail and win that match. So it wasn't necessarily over for our opponent in that matchup, even though we got to Solar Beam the Shadow Rhyperior. Jumping into this match, if you realize they have a quote-unquote baby Ho-Oh, one that's not purely maxed out yet. So we get to Sacred first. They usually Brave Bird and then switch, but in this case, they actually stay in. And they come into a Rhyperior. I think they were anticipating to catch the Brave Bird, but they're not going to be catching Brave Birds. They'll be catching Solar Beams, knocking out the Rhyperior. They're going to come in with Necrozma now. This is a very good matchup for Zygarde. Another reason why we just keep Zygarde tucked in the back, because it's still a great Pokemon. It's top #1 through PV Poke. And it's there for a reason, for its bulk and for its movesets. And yeah, coming into we're able to farm this down. We're just going to throw the player up before they get to another Brave Bird. They're going to probably let this go, knowing that they have a little bit more play against their Necrozma. They actually threw the move. This is our win for this match. We're going to come in with our Zygarde, and we're going to pretty much go to the Crunch and throw a Crunch before they get to the move. And it's pretty much GG's in that situation. Coming into the next match, we have Palkia. This is not a very fun lead, but now we've got Quick Attack Zacian. It makes it a little bit easier. Usually Palkia in the leads, they don't have much of a hard answer in the back for Zacian, which is a very good, just thing about Zacian as a safe swap. We get to throw the play rough first because we don't want to debuff ourselves just yet. We're going to wait to throw back to back on our wild charge, but surprisingly our opponent throws the Brave Bird first. I don't mind going down shields because I really want to knock out this Ho-Oh and get our alignment that we need. In this case, it's very great that they allow us to knock out their Ho-Oh. And they come in with Yveltal, which is also very interesting. They have to utilize their shields. And what I wanted to do is preserve some energy on our Zacian because they can't necessarily farm us down with their Palkia if they get into that situation. So they come into their Palkia, we get to farm, get to the Solar Beam, chip it very well, which is going to give our Zygarde some position, some play to actually come in, take some damage. We can survive a Spatial Ren, no problem whatsoever. And all we have to do is make sure that we have energy against the Yveltal once it comes in, either with our Zygarde or with our Zacian. In this case here, they get to throw the move. I thought they're going to throw the Oblivion Wing, but they actually threw a Hurricane, which is not going to give them any energy whatsoever to give us to knock out our Zacian. So we actually win that match getting to the Wild Charge before they get to an actual move. I think in that situation with our opponent, they should have gone to the Dark Pulse or the Oblivion Wing, go back to back almost and win that match. But hey, they got to an Earthquake, or I'm sorry, an Hurricane, and we were able to outpace their GG's to our opponent. Another Ho-Oh lead here. They're going to probably go to another Brave Bird and dip. And they do to our Palkia, which we're going to again bring in our Zacian. We've been just pretty much going autopilot with Zacian in the switch. Again, I think sometimes maybe the Zygarde will be a smarter play, but just the way that we've been playing things out, either getting shields or just winning switches has been really great. And sometimes having a slight energy lead against Zacian can chip whatever it is in the lead or whatever it is in the back. You know, it's still kind of rough to see a Rhyperior in the switch, but we've been pretty lucky to not have that situation where we need like close combat on our Zacian. I just still think Play Rough is just a nice move to have, just so we don't have to debuff ourselves in the switch situation. It's funny, we both switched simultaneously, and the little bit of health that we have on our Ho-Oh, we were able to get a shield, and the fast chip damage of Incinerates are giving our Zacian that play to chip and dip, which in this situation now we can come with our Zygarde, have a shield, and just be a wall against Ho-Oh and the little health that was left with their Xerneas. GG's to our opponent. Moving on to the next battle. We have Ho-Oh against Ho-Oh. Best buddy in this case. They won the coin flip. What are they going to do? Most likely Sacred Fire. We're just going to let it go. We get the debuff, which is not great. In this situation, we typically like to shield regardless, because they might have an answer in the back, which we could potentially Solar Beam. So we're going to just shield up here. We're going to actually throw the Sacred. We pause for a second just in case they didn't catch. Sometimes they like to do that. Prima comes in. It's a Charm Prima. They don't know we have Brave Burst, so we're going to throw Sacred. We're going to definitely get a shield here. Oh, I'm sorry. It's a Tapu Fini, not a Prima. But this opponent actually has a Prima. Newsflash. Has a Prima in the back. So we come in Zygarde. We take the Nature Madness. We switch into our Zacian. As you can see, the quick attack damage is looking very good in this situation. We're going to build up to as much energy as possible. We're going to throw the Play Rough, try to throw on good timing. We don't want those extra charms to come in. Pretty sad that Prima can survive that. I really wish it can work well. We're going to Wild Charge here to force the shields, which we do get. We're trying to switch because I believe they get to a Surf in my head, because I'm not really paying attention too much to counting. We switch because we want to see we can catch the Surf potentially onto Zygarde. But they were pretty disciplined. We switch into our Zygarde and we threw the Earthquake. We're trying to race to the Crunch. Perfect Zygarde gets to the Crunch and knocks out the Prima. We get to that match GG's. If we did not survive, they get to the Surf and knocks us out. So that was a very, very close matchup. And very reluctant there. Coming into the next match, this is a very known battler in our community running some spicy Genesect in the lead. We switch into our Zacian against their Yveltal. They know our team, or at least they know our moveset on Ho-Oh. So we build up to 2 wild charges here. We throw the Play Rough, and then we get to shielding both of our Pokemon. Again, we're just going to do the same thing that we usually do. We're just going to go to the Wild Charge. We're going to get shields down, but in this case, our good old friend is holding their shields, knowing what we have on Ho-Oh. So we get to chip a little bit onto Genesect, and then we switch into Rhyperior, and we just throw the move. Hey, they call it, they shield, they actually shield. And knowingly enough, they're going to build up as much energy as they can before we get to another Solar Beam. Rock Wrecker here is going to knock out our good old Ho-Oh, and we come in with our Zygarde. Still a very close match. It's not over yet. They have a lot of residual energy. They're going to break swiping, breaking swipe, if I say the fast move right. And we just got to watch for the catch, because I think with the catch, it can turn the tables a little bit. We're going to go straight to the Earthquake, throw in between the fast move, knock out the Rhyperior, and they're going to actually throw the big move. They're going to maximize their energy as much as they can, but I think we're a couple away. Nope, just one away from the Wild Charge. We're able to Wild Charge the Genesect. GG's to our opponent. And that was pretty cool to see Genesect in the lead, something a little bit different than what we typically see. Yveltal in the lead. Like I said, not a very comfortable matchup. We just got to pay attention to the catch, because it has happened once or twice. See, we paid attention to pausing there for a second, maxing out on energy. They throw the Oblivion Wing. We actually shield. If we get the debuff, we can comfortably live the second fast move, or the charge move, I'm sorry, the second Oblivion Wing, which we end up doing here. We're just watching for the actual catch, which we do see. And this is the match where I should have thrown the Sacred a lot quicker and then switch out when I could. I got a little hesitant there, and we switch into our Zygarde, and you'll see here, because this is the match that we actually lost, but we get to the Earthquake, but because they're able to build up the couple extra Shadow Claws against our Ho-Oh, they're able to chip to the Dark Pulse before we knock out the Necrozma with the Earthquake, and then they come in with our Lando. And what I wanted to do more than anything is to build up to the crunch to chip the Lando, but they were smart enough to catch the move onto Zacian, or I'm sorry, to their Yveltal before we switch into our Zacian. And here we are wanting to chip, and this is looking rather like uncomfortable for us. You know, all this energy we're building up is great, so we can chip the Lando, but they have a lot of residual energy, and because they catch the crunch, that was really like their win, like their like sealed, you know, win situation for this matchup here. And yeah, we're not able to outpace this Lando getting all this energy here. We're very close to farming down. It wasn't enough, and our Ho-Oh was too low of health, and we're able to not get that Incinerate through. But there we go, trainers. It was a very fun, positive match. Again, we had a very good run with this team with Snarl, Zacian, but we came to find out that Quick Attack was the better fast move, which made the pacing, the chip damage, and everything else a lot more fluid in the switch. If you're able to come up with a team, if you're not wanting to use this team for Solar Beam Ho-Oh, it's very fun. You just got to think a little bit differently, and you can see how things kind of turn around in your favor if you play it out right. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you like this video. Again, I'm going to try to post more videos for long form content. Appreciate y'all watching, and I'll see y'all in the next video.